What's the stupidest way you have injured yourself? I was sleeping one afternoon, and all my weight had fallen on my arm. As a result, my arm fell asleep too, and got dead numb. The phone started ringing, and the sound somehow blended in my dream, causing me to dream about a fire alarm going off. I got panicked in my sleep, and that panic continued when I realized that the ringing wasn't just in my dream, it was happening for real. So I popped up, sleepy and confused, and started running towards the source of the noise. Comically enough, my arm was so numb that it was beyond my control and was flailing randomly by my side, crashing onto nearby walls and furniture as I was running towards the sound. It was like running with a jelly-like arm. Think what happened to Harry Potter in HP and the Chamber of Secrets when Lockhart deboned his arm accidentally. Anyway, I don't know which of the billion crashes and bumps was the one that did the job, but that's how I dislocated my pinky. It was a good hit and my finger stood at a really weird angle afterwards, so I had to go to the doctor to put it back in its place. Hurt like a heck too. Trying to clean the facial hair out of my razor, I sliced one of my fingertips slightly open. Less than a second later, and irritated with blood dripping onto the sink, I quickly attempted to clean the rest of the razor exactly the same way with my next finger, resulting in another slight slicing. In my defense, it was very early in the morning and I wasn't yet a coffee drinker at that point in my life. The first few weeks of boot camp I was still learning to shave properly. I turned 18 while I was there and only had a bit of chin fluff. My face wasn't used to daily shaving, and I started getting this really itchy dry crusty skin around my chin. We'd also been issued ultra fine grained sandpaper for polishing the brass parts of our ceremonial uniforms. I had the bright idea to smooth my face out with it one morning, which actually worked really well. Took the dry itchy skin right off, and a few layers underneath, which didn't hurt at the time, but stung like hell about 30 minutes later during a dress inspection. And was apparently really visible because the parts I'd polished were swollen, red, and slightly bleeding. The drill staff were, in a way, impressed since no one else had sandpapered their own face before, so I guess I hold some sort of record in that regard. Put a knife into a slingshot to shoot my buddy in the butt. Believe it or not, there was no Elwell involved. The idea popped into my head and my 14-year-old brain thought, holy yes, that sounds hilarious. Fortunately, the knife slipped and completely opened up the space between my thumb and forefinger. Internal stitches, external stitches and a thing that held my hand in place for a while. I felt dumb, it hurt badly, but at the end of the day I'm so happy I hurt myself instead of doing some serious damage to someone else, because I wasn't thinking things through. Once me and my boyfriend were play fighting on my bed. He turned over and let rip the loudest fart right on me, causing me to jump back in such shock that I elbowed the corner of my desk with such force I had to go to the accident and emergency for an x-ray. I'm laughing about it now, but it honestly hurt like a freaker. I thought I'd shattered every bone in my arm. I never told anyone that's how the injury happened either. I just told everyone something made me jump. This is ridiculous, but in college, 20 years ago, a few days before the opening of a play I was in, Crazy for You, a musical with plenty of singing and dancing, I injured myself in the following way. I was in the kitchen of my studio apartment making dinner. Dinner was 1 can of Chef Boyardee beef ravioli. After grabbing the can from the shelf, I opened it over the sink with a can opener. I had been living in this apartment for a few years, so everything I did in the kitchen was done robotically. The lid now off, I tossed it toward the bin. Now, I heard it hit the side in a way that told me that didn't make it into the bin. So, as soon as it hit, and I heard it, I turned to walk over and pick it up. Little did I know, the lid had hit the side of the bin and immediately began to roll back toward me. So, I heard, turned, stepped, barefoot, and my left foot stepped directly into the now vertical rolling can lid. In entered my foot like a scalpel. I grabbed my foot and fell like Marvin Home Alone, 1990, right onto my back. As I fell, the blood from the wound sprayed across the wall. It was incredible. There was no one around, so I had to drive myself to the urgent care. I wrapped my foot in a bath towel and taped it with packing tape. It was my left foot, and I drove a manual, so that was a pain. Got to the urgent care, blood soaking through the towel now, and still had to wait for 45 minutes in the waiting room, adding insult to a very bad injury. Finally got in, had to tell the nurse what happened. I told her, in detail, and she laughed a bit with pity. So when the doctor came in, I just told him I stepped on some metal. 8 stitches later, and I was good to go. Had to use crutches, so as not to aggravate the wound. The doctor told me to stay off of it completely for at least a week. That evening, I went to the final rehearsal for the play before we opened. "What the heck happened to you?" the guest director asked. I started to answer in detail, but then quickly realized that the best route was to play it off like it was no big deal and toss my crutches to the side to illustrate that fact, like some sort of church-going believer at one of those churches where they lay hands on you. I assured him everything was fine, and we all got to work. After that rehearsal, we opened the next night. I would end up doing the show with 100% enthusiastic glee for 4 weekends, 16 shows. It was miserable. The shoe I was wearing on my left foot was so filled with blood by the end of every show that it was leaving a bloody footprint during the curtain call. To this day, the scar still hurts on my foot. I haven't eaten ravioli or any other Chef Boyardee products since. Not me, but a friend of mine is the champion of hurting yourself in stupid ways. Broke his finger trying to pick up a stationary basketball. Broke his toe walking down a flight of stairs. Got a concussion playing dodgeball. Had to take a couple days off school because he drank something really spicy. He was paid $20 to drink it. His parents found out, took away the $20, and then made him write a book report on a book with a title that was basically how not to screw up your life. Depends on what you mean by stupidest. If we are looking at an injury resulting from doing something stupid, then there was the time I got a corneal ulcer because I wore contacts at work. We were sandblasting. I knew it was stupid before I did it, but have you ever tried the overglasses safety glasses? They're a pain in the ass, and the bridge of the nose, and behind the ears. I had to sit in a pitch black room for days. Even the light from the TV on the dimmest setting was excruciating, dropping liquid fire into my eye at regular intervals. If we are going for how the freak did that even happen, stupid, I once sneezed and, I'm pretty sure, pulled a muscle in my neck. No idea how it happened, but it happened and it hurt like a heck. I put 2 mattresses down on my stairs to turn into a slide. There was a radiator at the bottom of the stair, which I failed to cover with a blanket or put a pillow in front of it because I was a stupid child. I slid down the stair a good few times, getting more confident with each turn. The last time I slid down it, I went a bit too fast and my foot ended up going up in the air. My foot hit the radiator and I ended up with 3 broken toes and a trip to the hospital. Busted my nutsack on a mechanical bull at the Saddle Ranch in Los Angeles while in college. Right when I signed the waiver I said, what's the worst that could happen? I found out. Must have slammed my nuts into the saddle while doing it but didn't notice. Went to the bathroom later, and while in line, noticed my legs felt sticky. I put a hand down my pants, and when I pulled my hand out it was covered in blood. My buddy asked what that was. I told him. Then said watch, clean hand, bloody hand. While putting my other hand down and up to show the blood. Went into stall, blood all over both legs. Put some TP down there, and went back to having a good time at the bar. At the end of the night, went to the hospital, and got 8 stitches on my nutsack. Was a pretty fun night. I was injected with 2 large syringes full of heavy duty detergent, while drunk and unconscious on the floor. Intramuscular, not intravenously. He whacked the needles through my jeans and emptied them into my leg. I didn't know anything was wrong until the next day when I woke up and couldn't walk and started puking all over myself. I let a schizophrenic guy sleep on my couch while he was in a bad place. I nearly died of liver, kidney and heart failure and I nearly lost my leg. Spent just under 4 months in hospital and it took a year to regain the ability to walk. It was a bad time. Pre-story context: when I was younger my brother and I would watch TV together. We had a different taste in shows and my parents didn't govern what was on, so it was really down to who had the remote. Because of this, if I had the remote I would take the remote with me when getting up, to go to the toilet, or get a drink, etc. So one day I get up and go for a piss. I put the TV remote on the floor by the door. Me being 7, I didn't really care about my privacy, so I left the door ajar, which became my downfall. I finished doing my thing, and after washing my hands I bent down to get the remote. At the same time my mum notices the door is open, so she shuts it. Me being a dipshit comprehends the door being shut, but still stands up. My head goes straight into the door handle and leaves a nice big cut which needed stitches. I still don't quite understand how a door handle did so much damage. You wouldn't have thought they had it in them. Also one time I stuck a stick down a rat hole cause I wanted to see some rats. Anyway, it turns out this wasn't a rat hole, and I was met by a swarm of angry hornets. You know the big pseudo rectangular holes they have at some car washes? So when I was around 13 I was running around for some reason, that too when it was totally dark, and all of a sudden the ground under me vanished, and I fell down the hole. I came back up alright, and I couldn't feel any injuries on me. About 10 minutes later, when we were finally back at a place where we could see, did my friend realize that my eye had swollen to the size of an egg and was bluish. I never felt any pain though, it was just ugly and embarrassing. I got to skip school for a week, so that's a win I guess. In 4th grade I was running to line up from recess and rolled my ankle. Ended up fracturing it. More recently I was trying to separate frozen sausage patties with a butter knife and ended up slicing my hand. Also not long ago I was wearing flared pants and I got up and started running in the house and somehow managed to get my foot caught in my pants and just wiped out. I probably have a dozen more, but I think those are my stupidest. Edit. Also when I was like 8 I was running and tripped over a water hose and busted my chin open and had to get stitches. At a party in college, I was drinking a 40 and went outside to smoke. On my way back in, I tripped on a crack in the sidewalk. My beer landed on the ground before I did. The beer shattered and I landed on it. When I got up, I realized there was a piece of glass in my leg. It didn't seem like it was a big piece of glass, and being dumb, I pulled it out. It was the entire bottom of the 40. I tried to go back into the party and pretend like nothing happened. As I was washing blood off my hands, one of the guys at the party came up to me to politely and discreetly ask if I needed the bathroom because it looked like my period had started. This was when I realized there was blood dripping down my leg. Ended up at the ER, was treated like absolute shit by the nurses who very clearly judgmental that I had been drinking and tried to give me stitches without anesthetic. Ended up with 11 stitches and couldn't drive for a few weeks. All because of a crack in the sidewalk. Obligatory, I'm on mobile. This story is by far one of the stupidest I can think of right now, and it's twofold, because I hurt myself once, and then almost immediately did it again. This happened a few months ago now, probably around May/June timeframe. I can't remember the exact specifics. Several friends and I were talking on Discord and chilling because of COVID restrictions. I was fidgeting with things, as I naturally fidget with things, to help with nerves and such. I eventually began fidgeting with my lighter, the flip up Zippo kind. I began lighting it, and then flicking it closed, open and lit, rinse and repeat. I eventually was staring at the flames, and openly said I wonder what fire smells like, and then just snorted the shit out of those flames. I wish I could be kidding. My friends just went silent, while I screamed in pain. Eventually one of my friends simply said, "OP, did you seriously just do what I think you did?" Once I had calmed down and managed to put some damp towelettes, ripped pieces of paper towel, to provide some first aid, I finally responded, and they all just sighed in disappointment. No severe damage now besides some lack of smell from that specific nostril. After a few hours, and a few pain pills later, I noticed I broke my lighter. When I dropped it, it must dropped right on the flipper and broke something. Anywho, I started trying to tinker with it. Little known to me, it must have been leaking lighter fluid, because when I fixed it and lit it, it whooshed and fire and flames went everywhere, catching my hands, pants, and portions of my carpet on fire. I quickly got everything put out, and no severe damage ensued. Just, no thinking went into any of this, and my own common sense rapidly failed me. I still can't believe I was absolutely this stupid. My friends still don't let me live this down, and will never let me. Hope this can all give you some laughs too. When I first realized that you could remove the avocado core with a knife, I used to work as a server at a restaurant, saw the chef do it from afar, and my mind was blown. I don't know what was going through my mind, but I had convinced myself that you had to aim the tip of the knife at the core and stab. I think I liked the adrenaline rush, so several weeks of feeling like a badass passed without incident. One day, the knife unfortunately didn't catch on the core, went through the avocado, and through the skin between my fingers. The chef was in stitches when I turned up at work with a bunch of awkwardly placed band-aids on my hand. She then proceeded to show me that you have to chop the core, not stab the damn thing. I don't use a knife at all anymore.